Proportional Response. Book 1, Chapter 5, Part 5, Put Up. Hannibal focused his eyes back on Henry and saw a glint of mischief in the man's eyes before he spoke. There, Hannibal, you begin to see. We are simply to provide support, goods and aid to all the races of the League, and form a few further close alliances. Whenever we are challenged on leadership in the League, we back away from it. We point to a designated ally, your empire, if your people agree, and say that we believe them better to lead, and thus the Xultans' campaign against us falls flat. They will try to adapt to it, of course, probably even point to that one famous play about Julius Caesar refusing the throne of Rome, claiming you to be duplicitous. Of course they will. We already have the responses prepared, mostly having to do with our confederation being too new, but also a bit of our own remnants of xenophobia. There are plans, contingencies to the contingencies, and teams of strategists to improvise past whatever comes up. Sooner or later, the Xultans push too hard, too far, and call for war with us, which will be their downfall. It will split the council. By how much depends on how well everyone on our side does their jobs between now and then. If we do good enough, fast enough, then not only will the war referendum fail, but it will spark a vote of no confidence, which Kilintar will lose, and your government's designated person wins the election for a new prime minister. The Xultans try, of course, to go to war anyway, but the newly minted prime minister will be able to impose sanctions enough to make that very hard for them. If we don't get the vote of no confidence, then the referendum for war still fails, and the Xultan go to war with us on their own, with few if any of the other species to back them. At some point, either during or after the fighting, the vote is held to Kilintar. All we have to do is make sure that the vote is not held until it is very clear that the fighting is not going well for the Xultans. Then, with the fear card, broken by the fact that humanity and whatever allies we have in the fight can and will stand against the Xultans, the vote happens, and they lose. Hannibal nodded. Yes, with the fighting going against the Xultans, and humanity already having proved that they will defend another species, by preventing a confistration of a species that can't be of any benefit to humanity for generations, they will have no trouble believing that you will protect them if they are attacked for voting against the Xultans. When you step aside from the opportunity to rule, everyone turns to us, the ones who stood with you, and your constant allies, who fought by your side. Henry nodded with a smile. Yes, but for one detail. We need the Empire to stay out of the fight and away from the conflict. There are a lot of reasons for this. I will let you read the brief later, but the most salient points are that if we are seen being too friendly with the race we keep blaming for our confistration, well, you can figure that out. Also, whoever takes up the mantle after the Eltons needs to be seen as being above the fray, fair to all sides, and all that. Your empire is known to be friendly to us, but you are also known to be closely allied to the Xultans, and to have done their dirty work on occasion, which comes close enough to making you a neutral party for our purposes. Furthermore, we will be looking to have you guys step in and negotiate the peace, which you can't do if you are involved in the conflict. No need to look so concerned, my friend. You are not the only race capable of standing against the Xultans. Finding out firsthand who can really fight is another reason for our military program. You really think we don't get regular reports from every mercenary company out there? We will have no shortage of allies if it comes to blows. Don't you fear, we need you for other things. Hannibal nodded. He didn't mention that many of those races would be better assets for them in a fight than we would be. Her Majesty's military is strong, but the realities of war can't be denied. How diplomatic of him. I have underestimated this man, his predecessor, and their people for so long. Time to put up or shut up, as they like to say. Hannibal stood and offered his hand to Henry. I will convey your message to Her Majesty personally, and will put forth every effort to convince her to send a delegation to meet with your people about the revisions to the plan. Henry smiled, stood, and extended his hand. Hannibal reached out to take it and found himself huddling beneath the conference table, shaking, trying to figure out how he got there and why.